Hi folks, today we're going to be looking at setting up PHP MPOS and how you'll go about doing that when provisioning a new server. Just like NOM, everything you need is already pre-installed and pretty much pre-configured. There isn't a great deal to do. The first step, again, we need to build the coin. So to do that, we're going to use LiveChains in this demonstration. So we do git clone and the LiveChains address. Once it's cloned, we need to build it, so it will be cd LiveChains / source. Yep. And it's make-f makefile.unix use upnp equals hyphen, and we're just going to let that run. This takes 10-15 minutes to complete. I'll hit pause here and we'll rejoin you when the build is complete. Okay folks, so now that LiveChains built, a little bit of housework. We need to strip the daemon. To do that, it's strip LiveChains, and finally we need to install it to the user directory. So cp LiveChains /user/bin, and finally cd .. Now we need to start LiveChains for the first time. To do this, we type LiveChains, and as you can see, we get a nice friendly message on the screen. Up next, cd.LiveChains, and finally nano LiveChains.com. In your welcome email, you would have been given there would have been a link to the getting started guide for your particular pool setup. In it, you will find this. This is an RPC configuration for the coin. What we need to do is copy and paste that into terminal. And we need to make a few quick changes. If we come back up to the top here, the RPC username and password, again, they should be very long, very complex. Just for this video, I'll be using short and simple. These passwords, if they're compromised, theft is a very real possibility. So you have been warned. So once we've changed username and password, the last thing to consider is the RPC pool. You should pick anywhere between 1500 and 5250. In this example, we're going to use 1500. For the most part, the rest of the configuration is correct, and you don't need to make any further changes in here. So Control X to exit, Control X to exit, then Y to save, and finally press Enter. So with the LiveChains configuration installed, we can now go ahead and start the coin. So it's LiveChains again. As you can see, the LiveChains server is started. After a second or two, you deposit it back to the prompt. Just make sure that it's downloading. So LiveChains get info, and as you can see, straight away we've got blocks. So if we run it again, you can see the block numbers going up, the chains coming down. Whilst that's going on, let's go and take a look at MPOS. So cd /var /www /MPOS /include /config, sorry. I'll highlight that on the bottom of the screen now. In this directory we find the magic file, global.inc.php. So let's open that up. I'm not going to run through all of the config here, just the essential bits to get you started. As you can see, it's a well documented config. All you need to do is visit these links to find out what each section does, and again on your help page here there is a copy of this with our own rundown. So the first thing we need to change almost immediately are the salt and salty. Now these must be random, guys. These are the encryption keys for the database. Not encryption keys, sorry, hashing passwords for the database. They do need to be secure. You only set them here, so it doesn't matter what you set. there's hundreds of ways of doing it. Anything up to 64 characters would be a good start. As we come down, we see here we've got an algorithm configuration. So if it's script, we put script. If it's SHA, we put SHA-256D. Now remember, MPOS only supports these two algos at present. A bit further down, we've got the database settings. These are actually correct for the deployment, but of course you're going to want to change the root password. So change it to, sorry, you're going to want to change your password. So change the password to what you want. In here, we'll cover how to set it a bit further on in the guide. Now this is the connection for the daemon. This is very important. So we need to specify the port that we used in the coin config, along with that username and password. Like so. Next up is the send mail. Now send mail is already configured to use our domain, LiveChains, via reverse DNS. You do not need to modify these settings, but you can if you wish. Now depending on what coin you install, it may not be Litecoin. These are the bits that you would change. In here, the Stratum URL would be something like stratum.yourdomain.com, and obviously you'll set up an A record for that. You do need to fill it in. The IP address of the server is a bare minimum. And the Stratum port will of course be 3333. Now this setting here, this is for an API call to BTEC to calculate a coin's profit, to calculate a coin's value. The options are fairly limited at the moment. It's disabled by default. You can of course enable it. These are the automatic payment thresholds. Now these are important. You don't want to promote coins being stored on the server, but equally it is going to happen. So these thresholds are a way of you enforcing payouts to users. Minimum obviously one coin is fairly typical these days, and the maximum threshold we usually say would be one block. So if the block's worth 50, you would put 50 in here. The next part you see here is the minimum payment threshold. Again, that's 1, as we've just discussed. The donation threshold, the minimum donation percentage. You can actually turn this down to 0.1. Invitations we don't cover here. The config for currency LTC, this is the letter code. So if you had Dogecoin, you would of course put Doge in here, or whatever for whatever coin. Coin target, this is how many seconds between each block. Now in the case of Litecoin, it's 2.5 minutes, which is 150 seconds. So in here we put 150. Again, you will change for your coin where needed. Coin difficulty change. This is how many blocks are found before a difficulty is changed. 2016 is the Litecoin, or was the Litecoin default. It's probably different now. You can set this as per the coin specifications. Transaction fees are applied to all transaction fees that MPOS sends. You can set those here. Block bonuses and pool bonuses. Highly recommended you read the wiki before you start playing with these. They can result in negative balances and cause problems. The next one up is this payout style. Now we highly recommend prop, but the system also supports PPLNS if you wish. Maximum number of transactions that can be carried out at any one time. There's no reason to change these settings at all. They will work for everybody. We don't discuss purging or share archiving at present. Up next is the pool fees. Obviously you set the percentage here that you want. 1% is pretty much the norm these days. The next part is PPLNS. At present it's not, you don't need it because we're configured for prop, but this is where the PPLNS settings would go. This is for the push-pull setting, the coin difficulty for push-pull. Again, no reason to change this. Now, a lot of people get confused with these two lines here. With this block, we're telling MPOS to ask how many coins were in the block. Now, you can specify other values here. We don't recommend it. And the reward this isn't really used for anything apart from some basic statistics on the actual website. In LiveChains' case it's 50, but in other coins it could be more or less. It's the total number of coins per block. Up next is the network confirmations and block maturity confirmations. Now it's very important you do not set these to less than the network is designed to be. So if it says 120, you need to use 120. If you use something less, a block could orphan and users have already been paid for it, in which case you end up with a massive negative balance wallet. You have been warned. Network confirmations and confirmations should be changed to match the information that is typically available in a coin's announcement file. Up next is the paper share configuration. We don't need to alter that. Now Memcache is already pre-configured. We don't need to alter these settings. In a few months' time, as your pool gets bigger, you can play around to improve performance, but right now you simply don't need it. Cookies, you'll need to refer to the wiki to set these up, particularly if you're using HTTPS. And finally, the smart eCache configurations. As you can see, we can leave those as the default. Now the very last line is important. When a system reaches a certain load, it will turn off certain features of MPOS. It does not affect mining, and it does not affect the payouts. It simply prevents MPOS running additional code to generate all of the highly detailed stats and graphs. The information isn't lost, it's simply processed at a later date. Now the higher you set this number, the bigger the risk that the system will have a full lockup before it gets there. 10 is about right for most pool deployments. There's no reason to go changing things here massively. So now that we've done that, it's Control X to exit, Y to save, and global.e.php. Now if we get the server's IP address, if we load it up now in the browser, we should be welcomed. Oh, I've closed it. No. And we are by the MPOS. Let me just hide this if I can. Okay, you can't quite see it all, but the most parts here, as you can see, we're connected to the coin daemon already. We should be showing a block count here somewhere. Yeah, network block. So the daemon's all connected and we're ready to go. All that's left to do is to set up cron jobs. Those are carried out. That information is available on the setup guide. It's not included as part of the video. Along with a few other tweaks and settings, you may need to refer to the Stratum video a bit later on when it comes time to set up Stratum. The Python Stratum is quite a bit different to NOMP and other deployments, and it can be a little bit fiddly at first to get perfect. But as always, any issues, just open a ticket. We'll be with you as soon as we can. Thanks a lot, guys.